Hi, everybody. Welcome to Proline, the longest-running sports handicapping show in America. Come to you direct from beautiful Las Vegas, where it is absolutely perfect outside today. You'd think it's spring already. We've got basketball news, notes and matchups. First, 60% for the NBA this season, and a nice weekend in colleges with your college mismatch game of the year. On Saturday, North Carolina just absolutely destroys Virginia 65-41. Nice to sit back and relax on those, Jim.
Yeah, Dave, just to expound upon that a little bit, Virginia's been having a lot of trouble offensively. This is not the same team they were in the beginning of the year. I think when you look at these teams, you look at a lot of fatigue issues, especially when they don't go very deep, and this team does not go very deep. They depend a lot on defense, and they go up against a deeper team with the fatigue situation on their side. It doesn't work out well. It worked out real well for me, 24-point win.
All right, let's go to the poll question. And every Monday on our social media networks, we post a Proline poll question and announce your results right here on the show. And this week we asked, it's one of those hypotheticals. You hold the number one pick in the NBA draft. Who do you take? And we put four choices out there. Josh Hart from Villanova, Caleb Swanigan from Purdue, Frank Mason from Kansas, who I think has been there 9 years, and it seems like it, huh? And Lonzo Ball, the UCLA freshman. Ooh, that's a tough choice. Well, the winner is who?
Well, this isn't one of my favorite questions because I really don't have much of an opinion with kids coming out of college. And it also has to do with the teams that have those choices and how those players might fit into their scheme. So a lot of times the player you choose isn't the player that everyone else would choose because they have different needs. But the answer is, the winner is 55% chose freshman Lonzo Ball of UCLA. 21% said Frank Mason. 19% Caleb Swanigan. So much for experience. They went with the kids.
Well, Ball's a heck of a player. I mean, his father went over the top with the comments comparing him to Steph Curry. That was a little ridiculous. But this kid sees the court extremely well. So he's not just a scorer and a shooter. I mean, he's also got a 3.5 to 1 assist to turnover ratio. That's pretty good. And he's doing so in a fairly complicated offense.
Very high tempo offense.
Yeah, another great game against USC, 15-8-8. I'm looking forward to seeing him on Saturday against Arizona. That should be a lot of fun. But I think I would probably go with Ball out of that bunch as well. I do think he's going to be a tremendous player. What about Swanigan? I mean, a lot to like on him as well, and he's a big kid, really big.
6'9", 250, at 19 points a game, 13 rebounds per game. Man, I mean, this guy can help a lot of people. That size, the rebounding, everything else that goes along with him. And then you got Frank Mason, senior guard, like you said, 200 years at Kansas. A lot of people think he's the best guard in the country. I don't know if you'd agree with that or not, Dave.
No, I would not. I think he's the most experienced.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But senior. I guess maybe there's a bias here, but I'm almost always going to favor the underclassmen over the upperclassmen. And I think, in other words, I think what we're seeing from Mason is about as good as we're going to see. That's good enough to play in the NBA. There's no question about that. But his upside, to me, is more limited than a freshman or a sophomore. So I would, and as much as I like Josh Hart, I would say the same thing. If I had to pick two out of this list, I'd go Ball and then Swanigan.
And Dave, we didn't talk about it. It's off the subject, but what did you think of the big trade? Cousins.
The Kings are crazy.
Well, they get rid of a lot of talent up there. I mean, they're like a farm system, like they used to be Kansas City for the Yankees. I mean, it's a little crazy.
It's a bad organization, and bad organizations make bad decisions. Divac kind of cracked me up. He said that he'd had a better offer than the one he took 2 days earlier. Well, why didn't you just call back the team that made you that offer and say, all right, you know what, I changed my mind, I'll take it. I think he's making it up. I don't think he got a better offer. Why would he say that? Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense.
Why did he throw himself under the bus with that?
I don't know. And look, I know Cousins has issues with his temperament.
Yeah.
But this guy is an absolutely great player. He's one of the 5 best players in the NBA. And this looks like a case of the owner of the team being the one who's kind of responsible for it. And I think Vlade is going to be the one that gets tossed under the bus by everybody. The owner has a thing for Buddy Hield. I think Buddy Hield was a great college player. Loved his story at Oklahoma. I think it was tremendous to watch. I think he deserved to be Player of the Year. I also think he's got limited NBA upside. I mean, he's a three-point shooter, and if he's not knocking down threes, I'm not sure what purpose he serves out there. To make him, Evans can't stay on the court. The draft choice is top 3 protected, so it's probably not. It's not going to be a sensational draft pick. I just don't. I don't know what the hurry was with Sacramento. It's not like they had to make this trade today, or even by the deadline. They could have waited. To me, they just got completely fleeced. And look at New Orleans now. And again, we can't put the cart before the horse. I don't know if Davis and Cousins are going to coexist. They're polar opposites in terms of personality and looks at things, but I think they're going to be fine. And that is now a sensational front court. I mean, absolutely fantastic. And those 2 guys on the same team, that's a big 3 waiting to happen. There's a free agent guard out there who's going to look at that and say, New Orleans, fun place to live, lots of good parties down there, pretty good weather, except when they get hurricanes. This is a place I want to be, and a chance to win an NBA championship. You add a good guard to that mix.
Oh, yeah.
I think Holiday's pretty good as it is, and I think he'll stay there now. That team can be a contender next year.
There's no question. It really is going to come down to the head coach and how he blends these players together. This is where the coaching is going to have to get to the next level.
Oh, yeah.
The blending players that are really good with big egos and making them coexist, it's going to come down to that.
Well, one thing, and I do think this will happen. I mean, it's just a guess, but I think that Cousins will probably rein himself in as far as his explosiveness goes, because he's not going to be as frustrated as he was in a perennial losing situation at Sacramento. That can wear on a guy. Some guys handle it well. There are others who don't handle it well, and maybe he was at the point where he's just so sick of losing he couldn't maintain his focus on the court in terms of staying away from arguing and getting technical fouls.
Right.
One thing we know, the guy's an absolutely phenomenal player.
Oh, absolutely, no question. The NBA, the NBA is, and I don't want to be critical. I like to be positive about most of what I say, but in reality, the NBA has got some fantastic athletes and the best in the world in some some of their capabilities. But the league is totally mismanaged, and they need to start bringing a better product to the floor each and every night instead of piecemeal. And I'd like to see some changes made in scheduling and traveling and maybe even cutting down the schedule so that we get some more quality.
They won't do that because of revenues. And unfortunately, I think that's part of the problem. It's an 82 games. And you got half the league makes the playoffs. So one thing I would like to see is a format change in the playoffs. I don't know. I don't have a problem with the 16 making the playoffs. Okay. But let's do this. The top 4 in each conference qualify. Divisional winner obviously gets an automatic. Then you've got wild cards would be the top 4 in each conference. And after that, you just go by record with the remaining 8 teams so that you don't have a couple of ridiculously bad teams in the East.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Let's get some quality in there because, honestly, for a lot of people, And I guess it's been a decent year in terms of betting volume, but everything's up. And it's a little skewed because there are more people with apps now than we've ever had before. And that has definitely contributed to higher volume as far as the wagering is concerned. But the fact is, for a lot of people, the NBA season doesn't start until the second round of the playoffs.
Right, and this is what bothers me about the league. You basically have 82 exhibition games, and I'd like to see a change. I mean, I'm all for the quality. I've been doing this all my life. I'd like to see the quality of the sports that we put out there um, upgraded. The pro level sports have fallen off a lot because of unions, negotiated arrangements with those unions, players associations. The college game is better. It's better. There's more enthusiasm. It
I
means
think
more,
certainly the regular season sure means a lot more.
of course. And I think we're heading in the wrong direction. I think we need to make some changes.
I can't disagree with any of that. All right, if you want to comment on the topics we're talking about, if you got a sports wagering question, just go to prolinetv.com and drop us a question. And Jim folks will also get 7 days of action free just by subscribing to this channel.
That's right, Dave. They just have to click on the subscribe button at Proline TV, Proline.tv, I should say, and get a week of service for free on me. Plus, go to jimfeist.com for free stats, articles, videos, and my fast facts, which are unbelievable this time of year, and plays from the nation's top handicappers.
That sounds great. Coming up this Saturday, we just mentioned that the regular season means more in college basketball. You get a good example of it this Saturday. It's kind of revenge Saturday across the college basketball board. A lot of second meetings. One of those is Florida and Kentucky. We're going to look at that game when we come back, so stay tuned. All right, welcome back as we continue on this edition of Proline. Well, it's Revenge Saturday, and one of the revenge games that's out there is one we'll look at to start this segment. That's Florida at Kentucky. And Jim, boy, look what happened the first time around. I mean, this was an absolute slaughter. To me, an embarrassing game for Kentucky. I know they were banged up. They weren't healthy, but still, it's Kentucky, and they just got their teeth kicked in by the Gators. I don't think it was even a score as close as the 88-66 final score indicates. I mean, this was a slaughter.
It was. I mean, 88-66. That's 20. I mean, Kentucky doesn't lose games like that.
And murdered in the boards.
Yes. Now, since then, Igbunu is gone. Now, that's a big loss for Florida. I like Florida. Actually, I think Florida might be a team that goes further in March than Kentucky does. Kentucky's very overrated. They are young. And these are the one and done kids. Calipari does a great job with them, but they don't hang. I think Florida has the right kind of energy and the meat and potatoes on the bone, so to speak, the meat on the bone, to go further than. Of course, it depends on your seeding and who you match up against and everything else. We don't know any of that right now, but I think Florida can go further than Kentucky does. And but this is a big revenge game for Kentucky. Now it comes down to whistles. Florida is not that deep now that they lost the big guy. So if you get some whistles early and you put the guys on the bench with 2 fouls early, things can change really quickly in a game like this. So to me it's a value play. It depends on what they make the number. Granted, if Kentucky's 4, you got to look at the Kentucky side. If they make it 7 or 8, then you got to look at the Florida side. It's that kind of a game to me. I think maybe you might want to look at the total. This should be a good defensive matchup, and but the intensity this time of year, the seeding. I'd say Florida right now is a 3 seed, maybe moving up to a 2 seed possibly, if they could kick this one off.
Well, they're 23-5.
They both are.
Yeah, they've won, what, 9 in a row?
Yes.
See, they're in better form than Kentucky. I don't think there's any question about that. Kentucky, their numbers are a bit inflated because they're Kentucky, but they're still 3-10 in their last 13 against the spread.
Very
And they
overrated.
really, the games haven't been close to the number. Okay, it'd be one thing if they were games that were right on, on the cusp of covering. They haven't come. They're not even remotely close to covering. I do think we'll find out more about Kentucky in this game than we have in any game this season because they got embarrassed down in Gainesville, and this is a game where Kentucky. And I'm not saying I'm going to be on that side. As of now, I doubt I'll be involved in it. But it's a game where Kentucky needs to go out and make a statement, not to us, but to themselves, that they can go out in a situation where they have a physical advantage because they're a big team. And with Igbuno out for Florida, Kentucky's supposed to have an edge on the inside. They got out rebounded 54-29 in the first meeting. I would think that is the absolute focus in practice this week. Is we have a guest in the rearview mirror. Is that which one of the dogs is that?
That's Zeus.
Ah,
He's taking a nap in the sun over there.
ah, I just noticed him. Must have been, he was probably there all the time, and I hadn't seen him. All right. Anyway, I think Kentucky is going to make a statement in this game. So it's just an opinion. I doubt I'll back that with money. Can't say for sure right now, but these are games that Calipari's pretty good at. And I guess what I'm saying is if we don't get the good performance out of Kentucky here, I think that might be an indication that this is a team that could be vulnerable sooner than we think in the NCAA tournament. Would you agree with that?
Well, I believe they're vulnerable, period. I think they're overrated. I think you pay for the name. These are young guys that are one and done. That's been the tradition. Even though they've had on paper, the best team for many years, they don't always win the tournament. And the Gators are hungry. They were the top dogs for a long time, and now they're making a comeback. And they're hungry. They're hot. They're on a great run. 9-0, big point spread winners again the other night. And I like them in this game, even though they're going against revenge and even though they lost their big guy. But I got to get the right number, and that right number has got to be 6 or more. I'm not gonna look at anything less. It's a numbers game. You don't really bet the teams, you bet the number, and I got to get the right value.
All right, let's take a look at another game. And here we're talking about a team that on paper, I think is a team that could actually be in the Final Four. That's how talented they are physically. But Florida State stinks on the road. Quite honestly, this goes back to I'll admit that I am, I've had this feeling for a long time. It's not something new. I am not a big Leonard Hamilton fan. I don't think he's a great game coach. I never have. He's fantastic at recruiting athletes, and he's developed a team that's really nasty at home. But they go on the road, and it's a different story.
Look at that game at Pittsburgh last Saturday. Oh my goodness!
That's a team in Florida State. I wasn't involved in the game, so it's not a sour grapes thing. Florida State should beat Pittsburgh almost every time they play him, and they did. And I thought they were terrible in that game.
It was ugly.
Terrible.
And I lost a bet on that. I had Florida State in that game. I lost a bet on that game. Fortunately, it wasn't one of my top games, but and Pitt's horrible.
Pittsburgh's had a very disappointing year. They've got 2 guys that I think are good players. The rest of the team is kind of sketchy, young and artists. And Florida State's got the athletes to handle those guys, and they go on the road. They're just a different story altogether. But here's a road game they might be able to get the job done. And Clemson can't finish a game.
But they played good last night against Virginia Tech.
They did, and by the way, this was a pros versus Joes game, and that's why we get the information out early. Clemson was one of the games we put in caps. which meant this was a go with sharp side. It is a sharp versus square game. And get that game out at +1.5 and 2. It ended up closing Pick'em and Clemson -1. So if you waited and did the steam chasing routine, you lost your bet. If you got it early, well, bad ending as far as the straight up. If you bet on the money line, but looked like a clean winner to me. I had Clemson plus the points, and I didn't even have to sweat the last 7 seconds of that game. But seriously, Clemson. This has been a problem for them all season long. They can't finish games. And I at some point, you have to start looking at the coach and saying, why isn't your team executing at the end of basketball games? Their defense, and this is a team that's supposed to be pretty good defensively, their defense completely broke down at the end of that game. And Virginia Tech got a really good look at a three that won the game for them. And I have no idea with 3.8 seconds what Clemson was running out of the timeout. 3.8 seconds is plenty of time. You don't have to throw a length of the court pass, which I thought was, that's what you came up with? So, Brownell's a little bit on the hot seat down there. Some people are not happy with the regression that the program has shown this year. They're 14 and 13. They are now off the bubble. Lunardi had them as the first 4 out going into last night's game. Well, they're not a first 4 out anymore. And another loss here would drop into 500 and drop into 5-11 in the conference. It's tough to make a case for an NCAA tournament team that's losing more than 2 out of every 3 games in conference play. And I don't think they've got the athletes to beat Florida State. The question is, will the Seminoles screw things up on the road again?
What's the motivation here for the number 19 Florida State team that's 22-6 straight up and beat this team by a ton the first time? And it was 109-61.
Oh,
I mean, a total thrashing.
February 5th.
Yeah, I mean, so now you're on the road where you don't play well anyway.
Yep.
You're favored, which you don't do well anyway. And now you're against a Clemson team who just put up a pretty good effort at Virginia Tech, who's got revenge. Something to play for because they want to squeeze in somewhere. Florida State's going.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what is the motivation for right now, this time of year, you really have to kind of figure out what the hell the motivation is for some of these teams that know where they're going.
And they are going. It appears as though they have a problem with that. Especially when they go on the road. Look at this. They've been down at least 18 points in 3 of their last 5 games. And again, they're 2-6 as a road favorite. Now, the one thing that has happened, the over. When they're a small road favorite, the over has been money. John Creighton came up with this, and take it for what it's worth. It may just be one of those fluky trends, but it is what it is. Over is 8-0 as a road favorite of up to 6.5 points, 9-1. In fact, in the last 10 of that situation. The negative on Clemson, and Clemson's been going over the total recently as well, which indicates they're not as good defensively as they've been. 1-6 against the spread as a dog, and that one came on Tuesday night against Virginia Tech. I guess they'd lost 6 in a row as a dog before that. Not very good. To me, it's a case of, do I want to pull the trigger on Clemson in a must-win game against the Florida State team that clearly is not performing well on the road? I don't think I can do it. I feel like I got my win out of Clemson at Virginia Tech, and I think I'm going to be happy with that.
Well, it does come down to line movement, what the point spread is, and, you talked about Joe's versus Schmoes or whatever, pros, and that's a new name I made up.
I like that.
And but I like the over. I think the over. Of course, we have to wait for the number and see what the number is going to be. Of course, that's primary. But the tendency here would be for an over. I don't see a high-intensity game from Florida State defensively. Their motivation in this game has got to be nil. They beat this team by 47 points already, scored 109. So I think Clemson's got everything in their favor here. I may not step in with a number to win the game or to cover, but I do like the over if I can get the right price.
All right. A lot of big games this weekend. Good time to be on board. I'm having my best overall month, and it's been a while. It's been a tremendous month because I give out golf plays, and safe to say they've been doing rather well. I made a lot of money on the golf links the last few weeks, and hopefully again this weekend down at the Honda Classic in Florida. We'll see. My clients get those games too, so find out what it's all about. Make the phone calls, and by the way, if you want to get free plays every day in a recorded message, we have those as well at 888-294-1970.
And you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Jim Feist Sports and get free plays daily by texting GAME, G-A-M-E, to 25827.
In the meantime, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week with another edition of Proline.
Bye, everybody.